Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Saturday, July 19th, 2025. I was hoping that the Trump thing would. I mean, I'm not hoping because I hope it goes south, whatever. Um, I just, whatever. I mean, the guy sucks, and I'm glad to see him have his breakup with his dopes. But um, it's after a while, the stories just kind of drag on, right? But here's
It is a blockbuster story that has heads here in Washington spinning. The Wall Street Journal reported on a collection of birthday letters gifted to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003, 3 years before he was charged with any crimes. One of those letters, the Journal says, it includes what appears to be Donald Trump's signature, and it's a cryptically written letter, a crude drawing of a nude woman done with a heavy marker. The president quickly denied it was him and says he'll sue the Rupert Murdoch-owned paper.
all right, so that's all coming. Let's move forward here.
But the politics here are complicated. Yes, it looks bad for the president, but it also may unite the movement that has been fractured over the Epstein saga. Even those critical of President Trump's handling of the Epstein files are rallying against their common enemy, the media.
Quite frankly, the Murdochs concocted something last night and thought it'd be a kill shot on President Trump. And
Is there any bigger piece of shit than this guy, Steve Bannon? Steve Bannon convinced Trump to go full truther or full right wing truther and go with Alex Jones in 2016. And then they had a falling out where Trump called him Sloppy Steve. And, Bannon is the pinnacle of the right wing, is sort of the point of the spear of the right wing, ruining the so-called truth community, the alternative media, taking something that was not at all supposed to be political in the sense of picking one side or the other, and the deep state bullshit, all that stuff. And he knows what Trump is. Like, he knows that Trump was not a truther, that Trump flirted with the truth community in 2016 and then ignored him for 4 years until he embraced the Cubies in 2020, a little bit in 2020, and then more so in 2024. And so, like, Trump is not that guy. Like, so he's not the guy that Steve Bannon tells his followers he is. And he knows it because he knows that Trump is just doing it and using the truth community. There's nothing worse than using the truth community for truthers. There's nothing worse than fakers and people who, aren't interested. The people that are sincere in the truth community, are people who are, to some extent, truth seekers, and people who want, see that the system is fucked in multiple ways. It's difficult, right? It's a difficult thing to go through. Like, all of us have gone through this realization that the people that are running our system are trying to kill us, and much worse than killing. It's enslaving, and all these things. Like, you're being treated like cattle, and all this. What the term was, a goy. This thing. You're being treated in a way that's you're there for their amusement and pleasure, like somehow you're lesser than they are. And not just individuals, everybody. Like this, the people that are leading you, the people that are running the system are horrible people. And everybody goes through that when they, the system itself. As much as you believe in the American system and the global system, as much as you believe in people, like having some sense of like decency or whatever it is, when you realize that the people running the system are horrible people, and then throughout the system there's different levels of just dark behavior, and everything you've been told is a fucking lie and all that stuff. It's tough to go through, like when you really wake up to that it's like the opposite of a good system. It's the opposite of something that's natural and normal. And so, Trump is flirting with that, group of people, but clearly is showing now that he's not one of us, right? And we don't have to agree on our beliefs. We just have to have this one thing in common, which is that we know that the system's fucked and the people running it are fucked, and that it's, and then we all have to deal with it to whatever extent, right? And there's different levels to it. And then, of course, the spiritual level being the deepest. And the spiritual level is full of all kinds of levels, like of realization. And, each time you go deeper, everything that you just thought you knew gets erased and shows that it's not that at all, right? When you're pursuing the essence of God, or the essence of divinity. And so, there's a whole range of truth-seeking, like I said in a recent video. And Trump is not on any of those levels, right? And Steve Bannon knows it. And for him to come out and say, oh, like the media's worse, right? The media's somehow worse. And so let's stick with Trump, even though he fucked you on Epstein, right?
And lo and behold, it's the exact opposite, because President Trump is now on offense. President Trump is best when it's attack, attack, attack. This is the deep state. This is the ruling class in America. They're trying to use it to destroy President Trump.
The president and I talked about that ridiculous allegation this morning. He said it's patently absurd. The president is the most maligned and attacked political figure in the history of American politics. There's no question about it. But he's also the most resilient. Did you see the language of this bogus supposed communication or card or something I supposedly sent to Epstein? He said, I don't...
It was really weird, like fucking weird, and I think it's true. It's so weird, like, I don't, like, who would make that up, right? And then his reaction, we'll get into the lawsuit and all that, because it's kind of hilarious.
Talk like that. I don't think like that. They're literally making things up.
I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters here at the table. CNN's Lauren Fox, CNN's Phil Mattingly, Jasmine Wright of Notice, and Nia Malika Henderson of CNN and of Bloomberg. We made
What a fucking motley crew.
Friday, one and all.
Hey, Dana. Hey.
Jasmine,
Dana.
you cover the White House full time. What are you hearing from your sources about the implications of what we have seen in the last 12 hours?
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump is furious. That cannot be downplayed. That cannot be understated. He's going to speak in just a few hours. Everyone is waiting to see what he says when he's signing at a bill signing later on today. But the implications, I think, are twofold. One, the White House has been trying for days to put this behind them, this whole Epstein thing, trying to get the MAGA movement to move on. I've talked to numerous White House officials who basically say whatever is going to happen is going to happen. We're not going to change. Yesterday, we heard the press secretary say that Donald Trump did not believe that he needs to recommend a special prosecutor for this case. And now you have those same MAGA allies who were really enraged with the White House, maybe not so much the president, but certainly how the administration was handling it, basically defending the president all of a sudden.
No way. It's so crazy. No one saw that coming.
And they're kind of getting the best of both worlds. Yes, they're back on Donald Trump's side because they can defend the president against the media, but they're also now getting what they believed to be is more access potentially to documents now that he's asked Pam Bondi to basically request the grand jury release more documents. Of course, who knows if that actually happens, but they're kind of in a good position right now, which they have not.
Yeah, they're not in a good position.
Been for days.
And Phil, let me just go back a little bit and read some of what is in that, what the Wall Street Journal says is that letter, that birthday letter. What it allegedly said. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Now, again, I just want to be clear. This is an imagined conversation allegedly written in a birthday message by Donald Trump.
So, like, there's always different narratives that are there, right, for the letter. And I don't give a shit about any of them because, like I've talked about before, like, nothing's ever going to happen. Like, this is not, there's not going to be some bombshell thing. And even if there was, let's say they released the Epstein files, and everybody was on him, right? The whole government, like every fucking person. And it was like people could comb through these things, and there was video, and they released all of it, and it was just like people were like, holy shit. It was like as big a scandal as there was involving politicians on both sides and all of it. Nothing would happen, right? There'd be some embarrassment, whatever. People lose faith in the government. But what happens every time like something like this happens? I mean, even if it's something like that, at some point you have your own personal problems and inflation and all the other things, right? Like there's and people just go back to living their lives. This story will end. At some point there'll be just, lingering whatever bullshit stuff going on. And, like some people will get to where I am or where I was years ago. This is starting to happen now. Somebody sent me a video where there's supposed to be a different angle on the Trump assassination. I'll try to look into that later. I talked about that in my last thing. Somebody's recording Trump from like behind. And maybe it's a staffer. I'm not sure the implications. But, I told you the first day that was, Ketchup Gate was fake as fuck. It was WWE. And I didn't even know Trump had a relationship with, whatever. But at some point, people are going to realize that the system is unfixable. And we're just waiting for that moment where everybody's going to know that it's not going back the way it was. Like something big's going to happen. And your lifestyle's going to change. And then when people, don't have food or don't have the internet, don't have electricity, or, things are going south for the American lifestyle, that's when you're going to know. Like that's when you're going to know that this is all right. And then people will hope that it goes back the way it was. And they won't care about so many different things that they think they care about now. And then there might be some riots or whatever it might be, but people will be in survival mode. But until that happens, we're just waiting for it to happen. That's all this is. We're waiting for the knockout blow. We're waiting for a series of knockout blows. We're waiting for, the inevitable decline of our society, the fall of America. And it's already kind of happened on different levels, but not in ways. For some people it's happened. Some people have already experienced this. Some people experienced it in 2008, with the economic collapse. There's other, the AI aspect of this, like AI taking over your job and then like people not having any use in it, being useless. Robots taking over your job, any number of things taking over, not your just, your whole job, your whole industry, right? So, there's going to be stuff like that. Depopulation, so for some people, they got COVID, got terrible cancer, or the loved one did, and, their whole lives are like wrecked and they're spinning, like they don't, some people have lost multiple people from terrible cancer or something. There's some people have already experienced a personal apocalypse. But for the rest of us, it's just lingering out, this thing that's lingering. But this is the kind of funny part.
Between the two of them. Now let me just read to you the president's denial. The Wall Street Journal printed a fake letter supposedly to Epstein. These are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures.
So this is, she's focusing on this because what a weird thing to say, right? I covered this yesterday, but I didn't get to I don't draw pictures. Oh, you poor little boy. You don't have you've never drawn a picture? You don't draw pictures.
I told Rupert Murdoch it was a scam, that he shouldn't print this fake story, but he did, and now I'm going to sue his ass off. And that of his third-rate newspaper, as he likes to sign these days. Thank you for your attention to this matter, ! DJT. Bill?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this that I don't think we have the time to totally unpack. I think that it is important, though, to try and provide a window into how this actually works from the reporting side of things, because and I think you hear this from Steve Bannon.
All right, so what I was going to say here. So there's three options with the Wall Street Journal. I got off on a tangent about, who gives a shit. But there's three options, right? that this letter is fake, this letter is real, this thing is all staged, and Wall Street Journal and Donald Trump are working together, consciously and knowingly, right? That this is just, a bullshit thing for all of us. And the story, like they're giving Donald Trump cover or some kind of thing, So they'll get rid of that one because that's either, that's there. So it's either real or fake, right? And if this is a real thing, then, they found out this is a real thing and they have proof. And this is some kind of bullshit lawsuit by Trump and a distraction or him reacting. But if it turns out that it's real, well, that's kind of fucked. Like if Donald Trump loses this lawsuit, of course, that will be years away. And the lawsuit, we'll get into that in a bit because he's already kind of filed it and it's fucked. But, let's say this is all above board and they're not working together and this isn't kind of some kind of staged bullshit thing, which, more than likely it always is in one way or another. Some kind of contrived, non-organic event. The Wall Street Journal would not publish this thing if it wasn't real. Like they wouldn't. Like it's just, as a newspaper, you wouldn't. Who gives a shit? It's like one story. You know how the president's going to react. You know how controversial it is. You better have the receipts, right? And they, so we'll see how it plays out. But, why would they do that?
This is a Murdoch's concocted conspiracy to push through. That's not really at all how any of this works.
Murdoch owns Fox News. So, it owns the New York Post. And so to go after Murdoch, like he's, there was that time that Murdoch had that Humpty Trumpty. I'll show you that. Hopefully I'll remember to do that when we're done with this thing here. The Humpty Trumpty thing. Let me show you that right now so I don't forget. So this was like in 2023. Is there a date on this thing here? It is Thursday, November 10th, 2022. Don, who couldn't build a wall, had a great fall, and can all the GOP's put it back together again. Humpty Trumpty. And they referred to Trump, I forget what this issue was. It was something that happened. One of the lawsuits, one of the things. And Trump was furious with him. Of course, remember, Fox News bailed on him in 2020. They called the election for Biden before anybody else. It was a whole thing. And so, this is... And Rupert Murdoch was like pissed off at Trump, whatever. And they turned on him, right? And, they've reversed that, like any of these other things. Like this thing with Epstein will go away and people realize they only have two choices and they don't want to choose the Democrats. They think they have to choose somebody. And that'll all play out the way it plays out, right? But for Trump, he's, he knows that Rupert Murdoch, they have just like with Steve Bannon, like Trump breaks up with people temporarily or permanently all the time. He's a contentious person, unlikable and selfish, and it's that kind of person can never lead you out of, the abyss. Like that's the big point that dumb fucks don't understand. The dumb fuck Trumpers don't realize that somebody who's an asshole, you can't lead a divided country out of a nightmare situation. You'd have to have a uniter. And people just want to be divided. People just want to hate the other side. They want to blame the other side. People are full of venom and hate. And that's tells you everything that's going to happen with your country, right? When everybody should know this. There's a time where there's this Italian guy a real Italian guy from Italy. And he used to travel around with Master Chargy. He was a rich guy. He had driven race cars, a wealthy guy. He traveled around with this third master Sajmark system. This guy's name was Salvatore, since dead. Me and Salvatore talked a few times. I think he, identified with me because we were, I look a little bit Italian, whatever it is, right? But he, there was some, there was always drama in any kind of organization, and there were people there was some kind of shit going on. Like there a lot of these boomer hippies that were just shitty parents. Like this one guy was just a fucking nightmare, and his son. This was an ashram we had in rural, Molina, Georgia, that's outside, it's like 2 hours outside of Atlanta. And it was on a mountain, a small mountain. And on the other side of the mountain, there was there was like some cabin. And these kids, this guy who was a real piece of shit practitioner, and the kid broke into a house and stole a gun, like fucking nightmare situation. And there's all these liberals and people from India, and it was just, it was so foreign to them that a kid would be like that fucking nightmare, and just like a 10, 11-year-old kid, right? And then there's a bunch of other shit that happened. And this guy Salvatore said to me, and there's cleaning that happens all the time at the gathering. There's always drama. There's always things. But this was particularly bad, the cleaning part. And Salvatore said, he really dislikes it when, he said, Charge, he really dislikes it when there's infighting, right? When there's conflict. And, you would have emotions come up, but you're supposed to be mature and not let them dominate. Like, just you look at the big picture and realize it's just a part of your spiritual journey, and anger and stuff is coming up, right? But he said, because when there's division, work stops. And you know this in your family, you know this in your society, you know this in your marriage. When you're fighting, no matter what you're doing, it gets put on hold. And if you're working together, you're on a team, and you're on you're working together for shared goals, and then you go through some kind of drama and conflict, it just wrecks everything. Like if you're working together as a family or as a working environment. Like I had a manager of a restaurant tell me, you just need like one or two waiters or waitresses to come in and start getting a negative attitude, and you have to fire the whole staff because they just poison everybody against the job, and they start complaining. And I saw that over and over again. You would see like somebody get a bad attitude, and they would start talking shit about the management or the restaurant, and everyone would be like, yeah, it does suck. And before you know it, everyone had a bad attitude. And they were all, like this is why I always say be grateful. And so a divider will never bring everyone together or cure a problem. And Trump lives in division. He's one of the most contentious, hostile, everyone else is evil, bullshit people that's ever existed. And he drives, he has people who love him and people who hate him. And he's the catalyst. And as long as he is there, there's no chance for America to be great again, because you can't make a divided country great. A country that's just embroiled in anger and hostility. And Trump has this in every one of his relationships. Every friend he's ever had, it becomes an enemy, and he turns on him. And this has happened over and over again. His ex-wives, he has nobody that he stays loyal to, and that stays loyal to him. And so Rupert Murdoch is a right-wing person, hates the Democrats, and he's part of this whole, he's Fox News. And he and Trump have already had these fallouts before, right?
I completely agree with Jazz that this is a moment where the base, which has been fractured on some level, maybe not to the degree that people want to try and say it's going to be, but has certainly had some difficulties in a way that we haven't seen Trump deal with over the course of the last decade.
Okay, so this is the part I want to show you here.
But Gavin Newsom, who has really enjoyed his role as Donald Trump's foil recently, he tweeted, "I never wrote a picture in my life," and it was kind of a retweet. Underneath it is an image from the Washington.
This is Trump writing something. This is Trump putting out a picture. I know. Did he ever say I never wrote a picture in his life? What was the thing he said here? So you have the tweet here. I don't draw pictures. And so, unless he said that a different way. I don't know if he said that two different way. But, I don't draw pictures, but he is in 2019 drawing a sketch.
And it was a sketch that Donald Trump did himself of the Manhattan skyline. Very different kind of sketch than what is allegedly the sketch that he drew, that he gave to Jeffrey Epstein, which
it's a real stupid thing to say, right? Like, it's just stupid. I don't draw pictures, because if they find a picture that you drew, then that's like no longer a defense. Like this is something that you do, right? Like he's trying to say, I would never draw a picture like that and do this kind of thing. I mean, it is weird as shit, right? The letter.
Are rated.
Yeah, Democrats obviously have really seized on this issue because they did view it as a way that the MAGA movement was fracturing. And what extent that movement was going to continue to fracture over this issue, I think, remains to be unseen. But obviously, Democrats feel like they can take the high ground here. There's no cost to them to basically argue over and over again, release everything, get it out there. Let's see if Donald...
Because it's not ever going to happen. Or whatever they have isn't going to be some bombshell stuff. So the Democrats, like I said, have been playing with house money.
Trump is afraid of something here, or if this is just really about the fact that he wants to move on for some reason. Meanwhile, it's hard because on Capitol Hill you have some Republicans who are pushing this pretty hard as well. I mean, there are 2 moving resolutions right now that deal with this issue. One of them from Thomas Massey that likely, if every Democrat...
All right, so the thing, let's go forward here.
They have in the past. They're jumping in. They're not sort of abiding by the old playbook of don't bother your enemies when they're going after each other. You wrote, Nia, the following. For Democrats, this decision is not without risks, as Republicans could turn it into a witch hunt pushed by Democrats out to get Trump, even though the conspiracy theory has its roots in MAGA world. Talk about that, but also about the fact that this week we have seen Donald Trump try so many tactics to try to get rid of this and calm the base down, including pretending that this is a Democratic conspiracy or layering that on top of the original conspiracy. And now it looks like they are joining.
It's finally working,
against the media.
Yeah, I mean...
It's not finally working. That was 2 dopes. Because, there's everyone like who's the Candace Parkers and the Tucker Carlsons. I mean, Tucker Carlson, I'm seeing every day there's a little video clip of him talking about Epstein and this whole thing. It's just how much they go after Trump is whatever it is. That part of the story, they're getting to the bottom of things. That's not going to happen. And the right-wing people turning completely on Trump. It's just whether they bail on him enough that the other Republicans use it as a way to finally get rid of this guy, right? Because they want to. Like the guy's a fucking nightmare, right? Like he's a grenade. Like I talked about how Joe Biden's senility, his Parkinson's, and Kamala Harris's unlikability were 2 grenades. They're time-release grenades, which all grenades are, that are just, they're a ticking time bomb that are going to go off at some point. They're going to blow up. And Trump is going to blow up at some point because he isn't ever going to make America great again. And he's just a fucking disaster, like in a way that's hilarious, that he's a president. And then when he blows up, it's going to be the downfall of the Republican Party. As much as you can have that because the Democrats are so bad as well.
It does seem like they're able to, at least today, suggest that this was some sort of media plot. It's the Democrats, which is good footing for them. He tried to do that in a couple of tweets and say this was Obama, it was Comey, it was name your Democrats' fault, and don't they always want to come at me? That didn't really work, and then he turned to...
But the thing is that nobody thought they were coming after him. Like the only one that knew they were coming after him was him because he knew there's shit in there that's embarrassing. That's the only explanation. Like, come at me, bro. Like, nobody was saying that. They were like, everyone's like, release the Epstein files. He's like, there's stuff in there that could hurt some innocent people, and I don't know. So you're either covering for other people, which is not what Trump would do here, or you're covering for yourself. And we know that he's in there. He was on the plane, and people say he's gone to the island, that there's stuff in there that would say that Trump is one of these people. Very vague things that are incriminating, and now even more so. And so if they released all these things and there's Trump's in there, he's now highlighted it. Like if he just released it and downplayed it to the base and said, you know, whatever, because they've seen his quotes and they've seen the pictures, they've seen the videos, and they ignored all that shit because they're dumb fucks, right? We already know that him and Jeffrey Epstein were fucking pals. We don't need this fucking weird ass letter. We already have that quote that he said he liked young girls. Like, what the fuck? I mean, that's more than enough, right? Like, you don't need any more than that. That's as much of a smoking gun as, you know, him and Jeffrey Epstein dancing like a couple of dweebs at a party in the fucking late 90s or whatever it is. And just and him banging a porn star and then paying her off, right? Trump's a fucking depraved piece of shit. Like, he's not a fucking saint or a hero. You know, like he's a worthless. Let me show you another example of this. So this is the lawsuit.
The legendary Rupert Murdoch.
Trump taking this action after the Murdoch-owned Wall Street Journal published a letter to Jeffrey Epstein bearing Donald Trump's name, containing a drawing of a woman's body with breasts and a Donald signature in the place of pubic hair.
It's great to see these people have to read that shit.
The message reads in part, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." Trump claims the letter is fake, saying in part, quote, "I don't draw pictures," although he did draw pictures that were auctioned off during his first term in office. Trump's closest allies, though, are coming to his defense. His vice president, who has been curiously silent on the Epstein saga after previously calling for the release of documents, posted on social media, quote, "Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump?" To be clear, he is talking about this Donald Trump.
Grab him by the I could do anything.
Evan Perez is out front in Washington. Evan, what does Attorney General Pam Bondi say in this new filing asking to release testimony in the Epstein case?
Well, Brianna, they're citing the public interest for asking a...
Wait, did I miss the thing?
Not a complete record of the investigation, just enough to get an indictment. And the judge has to agree to release it, which could take time, potentially a long time. The DOJ is making the request as Trump filed a defamation suit against his old friend Rupert Murdoch. Trump is asking for at least $10 billion in damages.
$10 billion in damages. Okay, so think about that. So there were 3 really bullshit lawsuits that were against right-wing people. One for Alex Jones, which was a $1 billion bullshit thing, right? One against Trump for the woman that he said was too ugly for him to rape, and she got like $200 million. And then one for Rudy Giuliani for a staff worker, a election official that won like $150 million, right? Whatever they were. The $1 billion for Alex Jones, the hundreds of millions of dollars for Trump, and the 100 million something for Rudy Giuliani. They were just over the top rulings, money that nobody really has, that they don't have to. People don't have that kind of disposable money. Even Trump, had that money. I don't know what happened with Trump's payment. And then Alex Jones was supposedly lost InfoWars, and it's still going now. It's like that whole thing where the Onion bought it and that whole thing, right? Like all this stuff seems fake. But, just if a wrongful death suit is $1 million, if somebody dies and their life is worth $1 million or something even $10 million, that's exorbitant. $1 billion and Trump suing for $10 billion. Now Trump pushed back against these goofy lawsuits and now he's filing one himself. He wants $10 billion from Rupert Murdoch. For what, right? Because of some goofy letter? The guy already is pals with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know if this thing is how this thing's going to go. And if this is just Trump pretending to file a lawsuit when he knows that he did write the letter. And that they have proof and like fucking whatever it is, right? But him filing for $10 billion shows what a piece of shit he is. Like he's really upset about Rupert Murdoch saying that shit, then if you're innocent, fucking release everything you have on Jeffrey Epstein. Because if you know that there's shit in there. But this is what Trump does. He goes on the attack, and it makes him look even more guilty because we know of his past history. $10 fucking billion. Like, it's crazy. Like how is that worth $10 billion? Like, how is this fucking Rupert Murdoch story worth $10 billion, right? Like something that's a fake letter. It's so it's just it's a bullshit lawsuit. Like, Trump cried about the amount of money he had to pay to that woman. And did he even have to pay that? Like, what does even happen with that, right? These stories just disappear, which is kind of the point of this whole thing we've been talking about. Like, just come and go, and there's nothing ever happens. They're just adds to the fucking whatever it is, right? But Trump desperately wanted the Jeffrey Epstein thing to go away. He was saying, this guy's been dead for so long. I mean, all the things he said. Let's move on. It's no big deal. He wasn't very important in life. Like, he said all these things. And for a week now, or whatever it is, he's been pushing for this story to go away. And now he's filing a $10 billion lawsuit with Rupert Murdoch, who's, in charge of Fox News. If Fox News just goes, turns on him. I mean, if he doesn't have any help with Fox News, and they just go ballistic on Trump, right? I mean, that whole thing, it's happened before with him. Maybe not ballistic, but just turn on him enough. And, I mean, that's within the range of all these things. And so the $10 billion lawsuit is going to drag the Jeffrey Epstein thing on for a year. And it's become not about mainstream media that he so decries. It comes about the guy who owns Fox News. And, like, they're all out to get him. And the Jeffrey Epstein is a Clinton thing, an Obama thing to just get him, right? And that's all in one of these hoaxes to destroy Trump when nobody thought that, and he's just making shit up. And, stuff's going to come out, right, from the lawsuit. So if he wanted to move on, why would he do this? Like, he's just, he's stupid, or this is, whatever, just a scripted thing. And Trump doesn't, Trump can't act. Like, Trump has to have legitimate reactions. They have to work Trump. They have to, they have to press his buttons. They have to make Trump jump, right? And so, I was going to cover the Stephen Colbert thing, which I'll probably do tomorrow because I want to give that enough attention. But because there's just even more stuff now. Like, Trump says he wants this to go away, but everything he does makes it not go away. And that should trigger every person that's a Trumper. You say you want to go away, but you're filing a lawsuit? Like, well, fuck, right? Why don't you just release the fucking files and get everything out there? Just a few more things here. So, this report here, there he is with these girls, like fucking his wife and that skank. I mean, they just got all these pictures. This guy's hand on his shoulder. Like, there's something like 240 pictures of Trump and Epstein together. And so then this guy, he's just such a creepy looking motherfucker, right? He's like a caricature of a Mossad asset, like a creepy fucking predatory Mossad asset, right? That's, got all this power and like fucking, he owns all these powerful people and he works for this powerful institution. He's like untouchable. And he just gets fucking goofy. And then him and Donald Trump's their best friends.
Rather than actually reveal critical information. Greg Sargent in the New Republic writing, quote, Trump's only way out of
Trump just screwed himself on the Epstein fiasco with Don Jr.'s help.
This is to seek full release of the Epstein files. But he won't, and he can't explain why he won't. The more he calls for meaningless releases that don't provide real transparency, the more he will stoke conspiracism, and the more he'll appear in on the elite cover-up.
Of course he does, because he is in it. Like, he is the cover-up. Trump is Epstein. Like, this is his scandal. He's the big player. He's the fucking guy.
Watch the Jeffrey Epstein scandal rock the second Trump administration. It's worth remembering this is not something new. This scandal was rocking his first administration, too. It's a saga that everyone has basically forgotten. It revolves around Alex Acosta. That was Trump's pick to be his first Secretary of Labor. It was a little...
Remember, Trump has this thing with Jim Acosta. They're not related, but it's a weird thing. Jim Acosta is a reporter for CNN, and Trump had this contentious relationship. This guy, he was put in charge of a bunch of things under Trump, and he was the guy who gave Epstein... Well, listen here.
Change at the time because Acosta had limited experience on labor issues. But back in 2005, Acosta had been the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. It's a big, important job. And on his watch, the FBI prepared a 53-page federal indictment charging Jeffrey Epstein for sex crimes that could have put him in jail for life. It alleged that Epstein lured a steady stream of underage girls to his Palm Beach mansion to engage in nude massages, masturbation, oral sex, and intercourse. The girls, mostly from disadvantaged, troubled families, were recruited from middle and high schools around Palm Beach County. Middle schools, like he's saying it himself. Middle schools. High schools around Palm Beach County. Middle and high schools. And they were offered money to bring new girls to Epstein. 6 of those women spoke exclusively to NBC News in 2019 about the abuse they endured.
I think the nature of this kind of abuse means that you're conditioned to be silent, to be isolated, secretive, and shameful.
I feel like, it was a big...
I think this is Virginia Giuffre, who's dead, who was Epstein.
A big game for him.
She got $12 million from Prince Andrew and now is dead.
And we were the pieces of his game. And you're like, I'm just not going to say anything because that's what he told me to do.
The women all have familiar stories of grooming, promises, and then sexual assault.
I can relate to pretty much every person sitting here next to me.
That indictment that was prepared by the FBI never saw the light of day. Because in 2008, Alex Acosta made a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein, negotiated in secret with Epstein's lawyers, who include Alan Dershowitz, who would go on to be a lawyer for Donald Trump. And under its terms, the feds would just not bring charges against Epstein. They would shut down their grand jury investigation. They would seal the indictment. Epstein would be prosecuted.
So they're finally covering this, right? Now, the mainstream media has gone after Trump about everything. And, this is how the dumb fuck Trumpers are. Think about the dumb fuck Trumpers. Jeffrey Epstein's got a painting of Bill Clinton in a blue dress. It's weird as fuck. And he's got a lot of other things that are ties to all these people. But the majority of evidence is him and Trump. He's got the next Trump employee we now hear from who said that they were besties. They hung around like all the time, in the early 2000s. He recruited the most famous victim, the victim of a royal family member, at Mar-a-Lago. She said she was recruited at Mar-a-Lago. And so Trump was like a place for these, his hotel, his club is implicated in this. And he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago because, this is right before Jeffrey Epstein got arrested in 2006, or right after that Trump realized he didn't want to be implicated. So Trump said this stuff about, the quote that he has, it's the worst quote out there of any famous person. Trump is the worst guy. The shit they have on Trump is worse than any other person. And yet these dumb fucks, these fucking QB dumb fuck, right-wing MAGA fucking morons, have believed that Trump is somehow just victim of circumstance and all these other people are elite Democrats and Bill Clinton. They have way more on Trump in terms of his relationship. Plus, he hired the lawyer that buried the Epstein case, the prosecutor, for a job he didn't deserve. He rewarded this guy for for not throwing the book at Epstein. And so Trump, and more than anybody else, is implicated here. More than anybody else. They have more on Trump. There's more bad visuals for Trump. And now this fucking letter and this fucking stupid-ass lawsuit. And the dumb fuck Trumpers are still like, I don't know, Pam Bondi. Just fucking stupid. It's fucking Trump's a scumbag, right? He banged a porn star and paid her $130,000 through his scumbag fixer lawyer who ended up going to prison and turning on Trump just like everyone else did. And, he was cheating on his wife with a fucking porn star that he tried to bring on The Apprentice. He has all these histories of depravity, all these stories about him, grab him by the pussy, all the shit he said, all the fucking stuff. He's a scum fucking bag. He's just a fucking bad guy, and especially to do with women and young women. And he's worse on Epstein than anybody else. If anybody should go down for Epstein, it's Trump. and his relationship with him is more intense and more more intimate than any of these other people. And the Trumpers are still out there, like, fucking, just how fucking stupid could you be, right?
By local authorities for 2 minor charges. Epstein got a 13-month sentence, but he was allowed to leave jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Epstein's victims were left unaware the sweetheart deal had even been cut, a fact Acosta was forced to account for as Trump's labor secretary.
And at the end
Do you regret making this deal in secret?
And at the end of the day,
Do you regret making this deal in secret?
The Honorable Alex Acosta, the Honorable, Jesus Christ. These fucking things that they have, these scumbags, they're all fucking scum. These people, they're just like everybody else, but worse, with power, right?
But if I could finish, if at the end of the day, Mr. Epstein went to jail, Epstein was incarcerated, he registered as a sex offender, the world was put on notice that he was a sex offender, and the victims received restitution.
13 months in county jail, 12 hours a day, work release. You consider that justice for the devastation of these girls?
Now, by then, victims were not only suing Epstein in court, they were suing the government, saying that Alex Acosta's deal had violated their rights. And it was at that time that the Miami Herald and its incredible investigative reporter, Julie K. Brown, had begun to publish an award-winning series.
So, and I want to give this woman credit for whatever, the Miami Herald, it was a real story. But there was all of us who were covering this. This was in lieu of Pizzagate and all these other things, right? And this is, and I've been covering this for years because I worked in treatment centers with kids who were basically little sex offenders. Most of them have been, offended themselves, and it was a fucking nightmare. I mean, there's endless amounts of kids who are fucked up by sexual abuse out there that are in the system, that are, can't get through the day of school. And my ex had been an abuse survivor, or whatever you want to call it, a victim, really a victim because she identifies as a victim of her dad and her mom. And her dad was like a really successful guy who was in charge of some company, right? A fucking Fortune 500 company. He was like a CEO of that, right? Something like that, right? Didn't, and didn't help her financially, like in the way he should have, but, all these things, right? And so I lived through this personally, and then, just through my work life and my social life and all the effects of these things. So, and I just know a lot about this. I wrote a workbook about transforming abuse. And I can cover this on a different level, not on some dumbass fucking QB level where they just make up bullshit, but just the effects of it and understand the grooming process. I work with the assault cycle. I've talked about that. Maybe I'll make one of these videos. I'll just talk about that as well. I'll show you the assault cycle and go through it. And it applies to more than just sexual abuse, right? But many of us covered this, the Epstein thing, in the truth community. And then the Miami Herald pick up on it. But again, this is where, we're always out in front of things. I mean, it's, whatever this story is or not, it's a story that people have interest in, and they try to bury it like fucking multiple times. And Trump's trying to bury it again, and he's the fucking main guy.
Of probes into Epstein's case, and specifically the contours of this very strange deal with Acosta. The following July, the FBI finally arrested Jeffrey Epstein on federal charges, and Donald Trump was being forced more and more to answer questions about his well-documented friendship with Epstein. The story wouldn't go away, so just a few days later, Alex Acosta did.
I do not think it is right and fair for this administration's Labor Department to have Epstein as the focus rather than the incredible economy that we have today. And so I called the president.
Sounds very familiar, right?
This morning, I told him that I thought the right thing was to step aside.
Donald Trump lamented the departure of his labor secretary, especially since there was nothing to see here.
I did have a falling out a long time ago. The reason doesn't make any difference, frankly, but I haven't spoken to him in probably 15 years or more. I wasn't a big fan of Jeffrey Epstein, that I can tell you.
Yeah, but you have falling out with everybody. But you guys were besties at one time. Remember that love note you wrote him? Like, he's the fucking worst. He is the worst guy for Epstein. He is the worst. He's a president, so he's a sitting president. So that's if George Clooney and fucking, let's say someone more relevant, who's like the biggest star, like Keanu Reeves. I don't know who this, the biggest box office star is, but like the top A-list celebrities, let's say Keanu Reeves, just for the John Wick movie or whatever he's making for those things, and the number one. I mean, see, I'm not up on modern shit, but the number one pop star, like whatever it is, number one singer, number one athlete. If you take all those people, I mean, even in extent the royal family, like Trump is. I mean, Prince Andrew's not Prince William or Prince King Harry. What's his name? King whatever his name is. I can't remember. Charles Chucky. King Chucky. If you take all these people, the Pope, right? It's the president that, even if they all have equal exposure on Jeffrey Epstein, in America too, let's just keep it to America, the president's the biggest story. If his, press secretary or his VP or all these people, if they're all involved in a scandal like with Nixon, with Watergate, there's lots of people involved with Watergate, but Nixon was the big fish, right? And for this thing with Epstein, it's Trump. Because Trump's a two-term president. He has more of a relationship with Epstein than any of these other people. And even if it was just equal, but it's even more damaging evidence. He's the guy who keeps on trying to bury this fucking story. He's had the scandal run a couple of times for him. And the fucking dumbass Trumpers just keep on dismissing his relationship with Epstein. They'll do anything to rearrange reality. It's right in your fucking face. This guy is Jeffrey Epstein's scandal. It's a Trump scandal. It's not an Epstein scandal. It's a Trump scandal. And the Democrats didn't fucking kill him. It's Trump. Like people on Trump's behalf. When he died, this story died. And we don't know where it would have went if Jeffrey Epstein doesn't fucking die. In Trump's first term. It happened on his watch. It was a federal prison, and it was a federal situation. And Trump was in charge of that as a president, and his administration was, and he fucking died, right? And he could have went in there and dug up everything he needed to know, and he just wanted him dead. Like, it was better for him that Trump was dead. Trump Epstein. Trump was the one that Epsteined him, right? Trump's the one who suicided him. If anybody did, it's him. And so it's always been him, right?
And now if you look, the remnants hurt this man, and I hate to see it happen.
I mean, you hate to see a guy like Alex Acosta hurt, 3 weeks after Alex Acosta departed the Trump White House, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his prison cell of an apparent suicide. Donald Trump effectively turned the page on a massive scandal that had been enveloping his administration. Well, now that scandal's back again. And he's trying to weather the storm with embattled Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was the top cop in Florida for 8 years and who also never prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein in all that time.
So this is all over Trump, right? This is Trump's thing. Trump owns this. He wears the Epstein thing. And fucking the Trumpers are the worst ones. Like, they're ones who are all about getting to the bottom of Jeffrey Epstein, but they've dismissed the biggest piece, the biggest player, which is Trump. And now they're still kind of doing it in fucking stupid-ass way. It's always been Trump. Like, Trump and Epstein are fucking, it's a as bad as the Bill Clinton thing is. I mean, Bill Clinton is so far removed from anything. Bill Clinton does not have as many pictures with and time spent and quotes about Jeffrey Epstein. Clinton never called him a terrific guy. I mean, all the people that would go down with this, it would be Trump would be the one everyone would be like, holy shit, Trump's involved, this thing. And so, it's Trump. It's fucking Trump, right? So this happened.
For the Jeffrey Epstein story that have been created for him inside Congress. There's a bipartisan push underway right now to demand the release of all the Jeffrey Epstein files that is underway in the House. So far, it's got 10 Republican co-sponsors that include some of the president's most vocal supporters, as you can see here.
So he's got Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, see, Trump feels like all these people, Lauren Boebert. He's got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Now, they're still probably not breaking from Trump, but Trump feels like, you guys don't realize that I'm fucked here and you don't have my back. Come on, you guys. Don't fucking push for this thing. You can hear what I'm saying, right? You guys not listening to me. This is not going to go anywhere fucking good, you guys. And so it's got Boebert, these two fucking boneheads, right? All these people. And some of these things are, key Trump people. They're Trumpers. These are all, a lot of these guys, I don't recognize all of them, but the ones I do are all Trumpers, right? And of course they are, because the Trumpers, this is something that Trump voters care about. And they, they're just too all fucking stupid and goofy to fucking say, oh my God, fucking Trump is the guy. Like, this is a Trump scandal. This is about Trump. We always thought it was about the Democrats. And because no matter who else is in this, Trump is like the fucking biggest fish in the net. Like, he's going to be 5 times the size of the next biggest fish, right? And they're too stupid to realize it, or, they want to bury it, whatever it is, right? So Anita Broderick was allegedly raped by Bill Clinton. And, those Bill Clinton things. And I get sometimes her Twitter. I'm not subscribed to her. I don't like her page. But I clicked on a few of them. In the morning I wake up and X is already recommending shit to me. And this one said, this will be hectic. And I saw that was a Donald J. Trump thing from Trump Social. I look forward to getting Rupert Murdoch to testify in my lawsuit against him in his pile of garbage newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. This will be an interesting experience. Now, she is a sexual abuse survivor based in her whole narrative by a powerful man who became president. And Trump he's Jeffrey Epstein's guy. Like, it's like they're tied at the hip more than anything else, right? And, all of the above. Like, it's just right fucking there. And they're still pushing this fucking bullshit stuff. These people who are pro-Trumpers, paid by Trump campaign, whatever. I don't know what their deal is, what their monetary aspect is. But all these people who promoted Trump, if this comes out and people realize Trump is the big fish, that this is a Trump story, it always has been, that he and Jeffrey Epstein, that's his fucking, Moby Dick, right? He's the big whale. And when they realize that means all their support of him was completely wrong. Like, all their buying into it, all their thinking he was going to save America, it's just completely wrong. It's wrong anyway, because like I said, Trump was never that guy. But all the shit they said about him, that he was a reincarnation of Jesus, that he was a savior, all the shit that they pushed about Make America Great Again, all the stuff that they said, this was the guy. He was the phenom. He was the guy they all been waiting for. Some outside-the-box right-wing conservative who is pictured with the Clintons and as he gave them money back when he was a Democrat. Like, he was never that fucking guy, right? And they've made him into the guy. And when they realize that they've staked their whole credibility on him, and they're just going to reword it and keep their fan base and pretend that they were always against him, or just, make it somehow that they're cracking a story that me and other people cracked years ago. Like, so many of these things in the truth community. Like, now there's dopes go out there. Like, someone sent me a video, like I said, about the ketchup gate. Like, I knew day one it was fake. And then, these guys will come around to it, and they'll never give you credit or say, hey, this guy was here way before us. Maybe we should start listening to him, right? That never comes about. And I don't give a shit, but this is how these dopes are. Like, they don't, it doesn't matter who got there first. They can be on the wrong side of these things, and then somehow, come to Jesus moment, come to the truther movement, and then they, realize that Trump's to blame, and then they talk about like they're the truth tellers. Like, it only became the truth when they discovered it, right? It only becomes the truth when they discover it. And like, they just suck so bad. This whole fucking movement, all this stuff coming out of the right wing, the fucking dumb fucks, right? And they're pandering to dumb fucks, and they brought down this, this movement that was going somewhere, not that it was going to change anything, but it was, could have been elevated, and it just, like all these things, they always go down to the lowest level, right? There's a thing that Master Chargy said about America, and the guy just could nail wherever he, whatever he said, wherever he went, he just knew the culture, knew everything. And he said, the wonderful thing about the American system is it rewards for merit. Now, this is a guy who, he grew up in Western areas. I mean, he grew up in India, but he got schooled by he went to some, British Christian school, and he traveled, did an internship overseas and in various countries. And he was in Europe and these other places. And then, of course, he was well traveled. But he grew up in a country where they have the ultimate in, classism in terms of the caste system. And we was saying that America, you can start off with nothing and make a lot of money. And he had seen it over and over with Indians who were doing well in school who would come to America and become multimillionaires, right? And he said, well, his wonderful system, it rewards for merit. But the problem is that they could have taken the best from each culture. They could have taken the highest stuff from every culture of people that came here. But instead, they've taken the lowest. Like there's all these different criminal gangs from, the Lafian criminal gang, or the, the Korean, it's just, there's mafia, all kinds of different mafias and all kinds of low-level degraded behaviors from all these cultures. But all these cultures had something great to offer, something of a higher nature. But they take all the mundane, low-level shit, and that just is a great description of America, that we always find the lowest common denominator, always the greasiest stuff, right? And, that's how it is with any kind of, with an economic system, a debt-based economic system. The things that pop, this is what's happened to the truth community, the things that are sensationalized always overshadow the good stuff, the good, wholesome, hardworking, grinded out, truthy, truth stuff that, it gets overshadowed by this bullshit, clickbaity kind of fucking QB stuff. I've talked about this over and over again. And, all these guys, Steve Bannon, they're all fucking complicit in that, right? They took something that could have been good and wrecked it. It's what happened to Saj Marg with Heartfulness and that dope Kamlish, Dodgy. And so, it's where people come in and they take something that could be great and they just dumb it down for the dumb fucks, right? And they repackage it for dumb fucks. That's why every religion sucks. That's why everything sucks, because they pander to dumb fucks, because dumb fucks are the easiest to manipulate, and they make up the majority of the people. The people that can rise to a higher level of consciousness are, people with higher capacity are rare. It's like there's 99 dumb fucks to every one, person that's a little bit evolved, a person who is, abstract thought, right? I mean, it's like 60% of the people don't have the ability for abstract thought or something like that. So, I mean, that's all you need to know. And then within the other 40%, I mean, the people do have abstract thought. Many of them don't have a higher nature or desire to become better, to be something, right? To self-improve and to connect to God and, go on a spiritual journey. And so there's just so much limited stuff. That's why we say to the dumb fucks that come here, there's plenty of shit for you. You don't have to be here. You want to be here because some part of you was like, I'm tired of being a dumb fuck. I want something better. Not that this is like rocket science that I deliver here. It's just not for dumb fucks, right? The dumb fucks have so much content, makes up the majority of content. And so go find the dumb fuck stuff. Go find your lane. If you're not ready to rise up, and otherwise shut your mouth and fucking, learn something, right? Gravitate to something higher than your dumb fuckery. So, anyways, Trump is the big fish, and it should be clear to everybody. And, we forgot so many things about this scandal, but it's always been about Trump. It's always all this stuff. This happened during the Trump era, and the ties between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein on every level is, I was just blatantly staring you right in the fucking face. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pouring from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.